What was your favorite joke character? A druid who absolutely hates plants because whenever he uses talk with plants, they're extreme assholes. I'm running a game where a player decided their backstory was that they had ventured to provide funds for an orphanage they co-owned. To flesh out the backstory, I created 3 mischievous orphan kids who hang out together and cause trouble: a goblin, a lizard folk, and a kenku. After I told the player about them and that they converted a cave behind the orphanage into a clubhouse, the player decided to buy them mining supplies and books on mining safety and construction. Thanks to the supplies, the orphans have expanded their clubhouse dramatically. When the players were exploring an underground dungeon of dead 3 cultists, I had the Orphan Gang tunnel into the dungeon and antagonize the boss, distracting him just enough for the player to behead the cultist boss right in front of them. Now that the Orphan Gang has witnessed one of the orphanage's owners execute a man, they have become obsessed with training to gain class levels and become adventurers who dig their way into dungeons. I plan on having the players run into them throughout the campaign, with each encounter showing new skills they've learned, like finding them in front of a burning tree, celebrating that they have mastered the fireball spell. Fireball! Fireball! I'm waiting for my chance to use this, a child wizard whose spellbook is a coloring book. Leveling up only means they earned enough allowance to buy magic markers or crayons to color in new spells. Aww. Solomon Black, a human warlock who was once a powerful lord until he was cut down in his prime by 4 teenagers and a talking dog. He came back from the dead to seek revenge against those meddling kids, and that stupid dog too. Dolores was a dragonborn cook with the attitude of a cranky old New Jersey diner waitress. She was a barbarian with a frying pan instead of an axe, so it did bludgeoning damage. Harry Hawson, a human necromancer who was cursed to make his flesh and organs invisible. He ran with a goblin to provide him with raw materials. If he needed to scout for traps, he would animate object on a gold coin, and the goblin would chase it, setting off the traps. Made a paladin named Shad, Strahd's rejected prince nephew. He was caught stealing in a faraway kingdom, so they gave him a magical ankle monitor and made him follow an oath of devotion to uphold the law as community service. Was quite a fun time ending up in Barovia. When I made my Centaur Paladin, he wasn't meant as a joke, but when he explained that the one-shot was going to be a series of heists, it became funnier and funnier, because I was always the smooth talker or the distraction, which were both incredibly funny. I think it peaked when my party was entering a drow compound, and when my guy tried to sneak in, he failed his stealth check and ended up surrounded. Well, I took out Plan B, a forged document with a formal invitation to single combat. I ended up in the ring with a guy not meant to be taken on one-on-one. But through a series of smites, crits, and knocking him prone, I killed a drow assassin, who was like double my challenge rating. Good job, man. A half-orc bard who is terrible at singing, inspired by the Skyrim orc bard who has a hit put out on him. 2 NPCs I've made. One was a dwarven ship captain named Admiral Crisp. Pay no heed to the fact he's a captain and an admiral. The other one was a human cleric that I made a sheet for with random stats, which gave him 19 strength for some reason. So I made him strong, stupid, and kind of bad at healing. Ended up giving him a voice like Macho Man Randy Savage. Now I've described this before, but it was a Harengon barbarian with the Path of the Giant subclass. He was a frail, small cartoon rabbit. Think Bugs Bunny's younger, shorter cousin. But he carried a comically large wooden mallet like a cartoon strongman's mallet. When he raged, he grew 2 sizes and turned bright red, and he used his giant mallet like a golf club on medium-sized enemies. He'd hit them with it, dealing 2d6 lightning damage, along with 2d6 plus 15 bludgeoning damage, knocking them through the air to land 30 feet away. If they lived, he'd do it again with his extra attack. Rolf, human barbarian, bald, handlebar mustache, olive-skinned, 6'6", does not Speaking of word, the entire campaign levels 1 to 20. 18 strength, 6 dexterity, 18 constitution. We got a 10 intelligence, 20 in wisdom, 18 in charisma. Immediately adopted by the party in the first village. Helped solve several puzzles for the party once I determined the PCs wouldn't get it. His suspected death, failed dex save, and a pitfall caused hysteria. Threats to quit the campaign and many tears. I had never created as beloved an NPC before. Haven't since. A drawing of him sits in my living room. I feel like I only make flawed characters, but they all tend to have comedic moments. Big Mo was an artificer armorer decked out in full plate steampunk style. Glowing red eyes, gouts of steam, imposing and huge. Inside was Maureen Boltstone, an elderly gnome grandmother and toy maker who wanted a safe way to travel the world post-retirement. It was a fun reveal. Rin was an orphan adopted by a cult that sacrificed his sanity, not his life. He'd see things not there, talk to things not there, and hear voices. He'd always talk to Little Sister, an imaginary friend who traveled with him, until it was revealed that Little Sister wasn't quite imaginary after all. And maybe, just maybe, my favorite, Gobre. He was a foul-mouthed goblin kicked out of his clan for being an unlikable drunk. He mugged an elven wizard for a bottomless ale mug. Unaware, the command phrase the wizard said was, "I'm a little shit!" in Elvish. He'd say things like, "Ever snorted pixie dust straight from the pixie?" Or, "I don't care how it smells. Huffing kobold shit gives the best high." Doctor, Professor, Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man. That's spelled correctly. He was a wild magic sorcerer who studied chaos zones and was lost in them for over 60 years. When he returned, he spoke gibberish until he stabilized, with the name replacing the one he knew, which he refused to change. It was a one-shot to rescue a character from their backstory flashback adventure, and things went wrong in the best way, baby! Chaos magic was on point for making things go wrong. Blizzard, the Lizard Wizard, a lizard folk order of scribe wizard. His specialty spell is Ball, fireball but bludgeoning damage. He speaks simply and is a bit naive, often for a laugh. All his magic comes from Arcanamatics, which is basically just Arcana math, which turns out to be a unique practice. He is now getting closer to mastering chronomancy because of it. My most recent character was a monk barbarian raised by hill giants, who exclusively used his fists and had an intelligence score of 6. He was a variant human who used his first level feat to take the unarmed fighting style for D8 with his fists, plus a level of monk to attack with his fists as a bonus action. Giant foundling background to pick up Strike of the Giants as well. Playing a meathead was amazing. His name was Thunk, upon on my nickname in the group, Dunk. And he talked in broken third person. He took everything literally, couldn't read, but he trusted his companions and listened to whatever they told him. When I got Path of the Giant, causing him to grow big when he raged, he ended up basically being the Incredible Hulk. I had a little guy named Who. You could probably guess what the main joke was. Outside of that, he was a childish kleptomaniac who occasionally acted like a creepy little gremlin. His high-pitched, annoying voice made both his old and new boss groan in tired annoyance because, good God, it's that guy again. Who? He was fun and led to the creation of a much more interesting and serious character down the line. Sneak-ers, a middle-aged fairy rogue who recently got out of jail after 10 years. He had a wife and a child born just before Sneak was arrested. He became an adventurer to prove to his son that he was cooler than his stepfather, and yes, he really loved chocolate bars. Now that I think about it, his backstory is sad, but he had a funny bald head and an ugly face, so I had fun playing him. A warlock who started as an archfey. He didn't read the small print which said the patron could loan out the Warlock to other entities. So, at random levels, roll a d4, you switch patrons, crossing them off the list once you've been loaned to them. Yarog! A centaur bard with a very loud Eastern European accent. But really, it was a set of human brothers in a half-horse costume. They switched all the time, and the party kept failing the rolls to notice. And the DM and I never outright said what was happening. Lots of amazing and hilarious things happened with Yarog, but my favorite was when we needed to take a goblin boss with us. The party knocked him out and said, "Yarog, you carry him," because, horse body. So Yarog walked over and the back brother scooped him up, making it look like the centaur just absorbed a goblin into his stomach. Jaws dropped! Absolutely out of pocket. 10 out of 10 would absorb again. Gnome wizard with a horrible high-pitched voice who only spoke in cliche joke setups. "That was my nickname in high school! That's what she said! I like my blank like I like my blankety blank! What did the blank say to the blank?" etc. I tried really hard to make actually insightful and important comments because I knew the bit would get old quickly otherwise. I never put so much effort into making my character's dialogue both horribly corny and valuable. A tiefling-packed warlock bard multiclass named Jonathan. He was the best fiddle player who ever lived, and he knew it, baby. One day he was challenged to a fiddling duel by an archfiend. The wager? His soul for a fiddle of gold. Jonathan confidently accepted, knowing he was the best ever, but he lost, not realizing devils might count as living beings in the same way. Now he serves the archfiend, forced to use his musical prowess to seduce the masses and bring more servants to his master. He hates this arrangement and will do anything to break his contract. The great thing about Jonathan is that even though he's a joke character, he can easily be played as a serious long-term character for a campaign. Scrwingo Squungus! The character I made, explicitly telling the party I'd kill him within the session he was introduced. I proceeded to do so, violently exploding him the second the party patted him on the shoulder to congratulate him on surviving a whole dungeon. Then he came back and did the same thing. Eventually, I planned to casually lore drop to the party that he was cursed by Asmodeus himself to never truly die and to suffer horrible deaths for all eternity, prompting them to try and break his curse, or just to watch him die over and over and over again. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know down in the comments below, what was your favorite joke character? We love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy, and we'll see you next time. Toodaloo for now.